Record. Okay, we're studying the two Beit Yosef, סימן ל"ט, יורה דעה סימן ל"ט, הלכות טרפות. Let me read quickly the tour. כל טרפות שמנו חכמים בבהמה ובעוף, אין צריך לבדוק אחריהם. חזקת בהמה חיה בעוף כשרים הם, שלא בעלי חיים, בריאים וכשרים הם. So there's a חזקה, that לא בעלי חיים בריאים וכשרים הם. And as I said, Rambam, I think he says בריאים ושלמים, not כשרים, but same idea. אלא שהצליחו לבדוק הריאה, so he says, so I have to be בודקים דריאה, כשהיא לפנינו, when the ריאה is available, we do check it. Why? לפי שהסלחות מסויות. Because the סלחות and the ריאה is something that's מסוי. ובעל התרומה כתב, ואפילו אם אינה לפנינו, יש לחוש. בעל התרומה is more מחמיר. He says, even if the eye is not available to check, you're חושש. כיוון שהסלחות מסויות בה, ולא יתירו כשאלה לפנינו, אלא בגדים או תלאים שאין לטרפות מסו בהן. The בעל התרומה makes a distinction between, let's say, cows, where סלחות are מסויות on the ריאה, and let's say goats or sheep, where sirchot are less mesuyot on the eye, and therefore the eye is not available, you can be somech on the chazakah. But apparently, in the case of cows, he's not somech on the chazakah, and he says you have to check the re'ah. Lekach nohagim b'chol makom libdok hare'ah. That's okay. So the nevertheless, the minhag is libdok hare'ah. I'm going to read quickly what is the source for this. The Bet Yosef. Beperek kama de Xulin gabe. On the Gemara that says, the Gemara asks a question, how do I know that achnu olchim achar harov? And the Gemara answers the question. But on that question, katav Rashi, we are somchim, halacha lema'aseh, we are somchim on the chazakah batar ruba, zil batar ruba. And therefore, even though the Mishnah mentions 18 terefot, we don't have to check those 18 terefot. But unkuvat hare'ah mishum deshachiyach bariuta badginan. But nekuvat hare'ah, it's shachiyach bariuta. There is many times it's silchot and there's problems, and therefore we are bodkim lechatachila. But he'echad yitamed ifrak re'ah vela badak mitachla desamchinan aha. But if there was a situation where the re'ah was not checked, Vela badak. I'm not sure what mitachla means. The samchinan aha, we're samchim on the chazakah. Meaning, according to Rashi, you may be somech on the chazakah. Unlike Baal HaTerumah says you may not be somech. Rashi says samchinan. The samchinan aha. Okay. Also, we're somchim on Ravuna. Ravuna says, because that Gemara was in Masechet Xulin, Daf Yod Aleph, but then Ravuna earlier in Daf Tet makes another statement. The Amar. Right. If the animal was shchata, b'chazkat teter omedet. Ve'em mefarsimim hadavar. Nevertheless, Rashi says you shouldn't be mefarsem hadavar. Sometimes you have things like that in the halacha, where we not mefarsimim hadavar. For example, Rambam brings in the tefillin. He says that you're not allowed to put tefillin at night, and you should not put tefillin after sunset. And the minute the sun sets, you should take off the tefillin. But if, and I remember that was very makpid, by the way, like ta'anit,
to take it off
immediately, it would tell people in the knees, take off today. I don't know what the heck happened. Like it's almost like people have an aversion to putting on tefillin for ta'anit. Like it's not like chasvaik. It's a b'shagay tarosh. Ta'anit is a yom of tefillah, kedusha. What better time to put on tefillin? And that was minhag avotenu. And then, no, it's not our custom, but your fathers used to do it. They used to go all the Batei Knesset. I don't know. All right, whatever. Obviously, the rabbis are mikalkelim et hador. That's the truth. I mean, but be that as it may. Nevertheless, the Rambam says that really, if a person put tefillin before sunset and the sun sets, he doesn't have to take off the tefillin immediately. He can keep it on. You're not allowed to put it on after sunset, but you can, if you put it on before, you don't have to take it off immediately. So why did Shteda make a big deal about it in the Knis? Take off the tefillin at sunset. Because the lo mefarsimim et hadavar. Rambam writes afterwards that you lo mefarsim et hadavar. In the sense that not everything that is halacha is lefirsum. You understand? All right.
You know why? It's not מפורסם.
We don't want people to be mezalzelin. Daytime is the time for tefillin, not nighttime. Yamim, yamima. So daytime is the time for tefillin. So that's Hakamim understand that, right? So as Wajda, he was a Sadiq. He would tell people, take your tefillin, it's a sunset already. Otherwise, it's mefarsem adavar, right?
Yeah.
Right. וכתב המרדכי.
וכתב המרדכי שנחלק עליו רבנו יונה לוי מביא וכתב דלה
דלה זה לנמת ערובה
אלא אחד דלה אפשר
only when you have no choice only אחד דלה אפשר אבל אחד אפשר
כתיקון חכמים לאזלינן בתרובה.
But if you can, then lazim בתרובה. Get me my iPad. מחילה. So he says here וכתב המרדכי שנחלק עליו רי הלוי וכתב דלה אזלינן בתרובה. The Ri Levi disagreed with Rashi. Now, there was a Ri Levi, Rabbi Yitzchak Levi of Worms, who was one of Rashi's teachers. Apparently, I don't think it's this Ri Levi because he wouldn't say Nehilak alav. It would be more like Rashi Nehilak al Ri Levi, right? Right, because if it's his teacher, I don't know. Again, I don't know. But the other Ri Levi was Rabbi Yitzchak ben Asher Halevi of Speyer. Or Speyer, I don't know what that is, but he was like around the times of the Tosafot. He was and he was a student of Rashi. So there was a Ri Levi who was a teacher of Rashi. There was a Ri Levi who was a student of Rashi. Apparently, this was probably the student of Rashi, who was one of the Baalei Tosafot, and oftentimes they disagreed with Rashi. Al Yamin Val Semol, for example, Rabbeinu Tam was a grandson of Rashi, right? And he disagreed with Rashi on many points. Which is mutar, by the way. Meaning, it's mutar if you have a basis. We see many times that Rabbeinu HaKadosh was cholek on the Ban Shimon Gamliel, his father. You see that a lot. Rabbi cholek on a bunch of Gamliel, right? So it happens. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, just so you understand. So apparently this is Ri Levi, the student of Rashi. Chatav delazin bataruba. אלא אחד דלה אפשר, אבל אחד אפשר כתיקון חכמים להאזין בataruba. Okay. Right, apparently, right, continue. ודרבונה
איכה לתרופי דלה הקיל אלא בשאר טרפות.
Now, what about Ravuna? How do we Halevi deal with Ravuna? We saw Ravuna said in Xolin, Taftet Amud Aleph, he said, Nishchata beheskat heter omedet. How do I deal with that? Beheskat heter. So, Efshar, I can explain it by saying, Ika letaruseh, when was Ravuna Mekel, that he said, Nishchata beheskat heter omedet, Bish'ar telefot shelo yisichu libdok. He was talking about other telefot. אבל ראה שיש בה כמה מיני טרפות, לא עלתה על ליבו. But the ראה that has many טרפות, Ravuna would never say that. Now, the problem with this thesis and with this methodology is העיקר חסר מהספר. It's kind of an important point. If you're Ravuna, and you're saying Nishchata b'hezkat heter omedet, but meanwhile, it's not b'hezkat heter because every animal has a lung, and you're telling me that lungs are no good, which we understand that. So how can he say Nishchata b'hezkat heter omedet? And Shted Alav Shalom wrote an article about the methodology, the legal thinking of Tosafot, and the methodology, and he analyzes this lav dafka or dafka methodology, and he criticizes it. Because for the Sephardim, we don't accept this methodology. And people went crazy, you're going against the Tosafot, I don't know, like Kafar Baikah, it's okay for the Tosafot to be Chokim al Rashi, and this, but if somebody's Cholek on the Tosafot, it's okay for everybody to criticize the Rambam in the worst unjustified way. But if somebody questions the methodology of the Tosafot, it's Sephardim, we don't study Gemara like this. How could you say that? This is Minut, this is Kefirah. So, the point is, we love the Tosafot, but I love people who study Torah L'Shem Shamayim. I want to say this, I mean it, be'emunah. I respect Talmidei Chachamim sheyoshvim ve'oskim b'Torah L'Shem Shamayim. I want to emphasize that, not L'Shem other reasons, but okay. So I love the Tosafot, and I love Rashi, and I love all the Chachamim study Torah L'Shem Shamayim. And yet we disagree. And you saw even, I asked questions against Bet Yosef the other day. He asked questions against Rambam, I answered the questions. So this is very important to distinguish between, and sometimes I disagreed with Shteda, alav shalom. Maybe he made some points about Shem open and off. I disagreed with his interpretation. Be'anava, of course, not chas v'shalom bechutzpah. But that's the way of Torah, and you're welcome to disagree with me. If you ever see something that I said that's wrong, that in light of this, you have a better, deeper understanding, you tell me. So this whole method of that Ravuna, I mean, again, read the words of Ravuna. Ve'amar Ravuna.
אמר רבונה דאמר נשחטה בחזקת היתר עומדת.
So what? How can he say beheskat heter? But you're saying it's not beheskat heter. So it's mamash. It's like sloppy. Other Ravuna were sloppy. Or the methodology of Tosafot is not something that us Sephardim accept. And I think that the Sephardim are correct. Again, okay. So and he himself, he understands it's dochak, because he says if shar litarutz, I can give you a terutz. Okay. All right. All right. So let's continue. So. לא, הוא בא להלכות גדולות כתב. בא להלכות גדולות, that's very important. I wanted to tell you who he was. His name was Rabbi Shimon Kayara. He was in the days of the Geonim. I read a book called בא להלכות גדולות. Okay, הלכות גדולות. No, I'm sorry, not בא. He is the author of הלכות גדולות. Okay, so people quote this as a rabbi in northern Israel, in Shlomi. His name is, I forgot what it is. He's a Sephardi Moroccan rabbi who can't stand Shas and can't stand all the, because the Shas, the Kilu, took away the authority of the Moroccan rabbis. I understand it, by the way. I'm not saying it to a rabbi, I forgot his name. Okay. And so he can't stand Shas, he can't stand the whole thing of this. They took away the authority of the Moroccan rabbis. Why are you telling us what to do? Okay, again, I have no problem.
Yeah.
What?
What does that mean?
Yeah, because the Moroccans had their own customs. So when Arav Yosef wrote the Pesakim, and then Shas insisted that every Sephardi in Israel, everybody has to accept his Pesakim. Yemenites have their own customs. Moroccans have their own. But kulam tzrichim litbatel, as if although it's, that Moshe Rabbeinu just came to Hashemayim and gave us the Torah. But that's not what happened. You're writing called Shulchan Aruch. Maybe Yemenites don't follow Shulchan Aruch. Maybe Moroccans have their own customs. They follow the Rosh in some cases. They follow other things in some cases. But no, we all have to accept Harav Yosef. I think Harav Yosef was an outstanding Talmid Chacham of the highest caliber. I'm not but in a question of halacha, there's minhagim, and you have to respect the different minhagim. You can't just impose. But okay, so he can't Al-Harar, Harav Moshe Al-Harar. I think that's his name. You'll see him on you. He has all these classes. He has a lot of classes. So he's from Shlomi. He's the chief rabbi of Shlomi.
Okay.
And basically. One second. So he has some shitot and halacha that I disagree with. Again, respectfully. So Hallel on Rosh Chodesh and Hallel on various holidays, we don't say beracha. The Ashkenazim say beracha, but he insists that really, according to the Geonim, you have to say beracha. And he quotes the Geonim, and he says that anybody who goes against the Geonim, parash me'achayim. I don't know, somebody, what is the context of this? So anytime Rambam is cholek on the Geonim, parash me'achayim. I mean, I'm sorry, that's not Talmud Torah. That's not the way to make an argument. Like his thing is, he found one of the Baal Alchot Gedolot was in the days of the Geonim, and then he found some statement, Kol HaPoresh me'Geonim ki'ilu parash me'achayim or something. And I don't know what the context of that statement is. Maybe a person was against the Geonim and against the Torah and against I don't know what. But no, okay, again, it's an Ashkenazic methodology where you have Gdolim. My Gdolim are different than yours. And if you're against my Gdolim, that's not Talmud Torah. I would never say, Kol HaPoresh me'Rambam ki'ilu parash me'achayim. And that's it. You're against Rambam and you're committing suicide. Okay, it's not. Now, why am I making a big deal? The Bet Yosef brings Baal Alachot Gedolot a lot.
Yeah.
Shteda, Alav Hashem explained to me. Just because he lived in the days of the Geonim didn't mean he was a Gaon. He was not a Gaon. He was not a Rosh Yeshiva. He has a fine Talmid Chacham. We love his books on Halachot Gedolot. But don't call Halachot Gedolot and say Kol HaPoresh me'Geonim ki'ilu parash me'achayim. And then we all have to follow Halachot Gedolot. But Rambam says not to say beracha. No. Okay. I can't deal with people who, whatever, dogma is not one. But then another thing, as important as the first thing. Again, Baal Halachot Gedolot, we love Baal Halachot Gedolot, and the Beit Yosef quotes him, and he has a wonderful book on halacha, and he says many things that are not the halacha, that he himself goes against what the Gaonim say. Okay, all right, he was not a Gaon, and it's okay. I'm not a Gaon, and I love myself. And also, Shadada wasn't one of the Gaonim from the days of the Gaonim. Was not Gaon Surah, Gaon Fumbati, but he was actually he was a Gaon for real. Shadada actually was a Gaon. He knew the Kol Torah Kula, Be'alef Hatzaf. But okay. The Baal Halachot Gedolot, the book Halachot Gedolot that we have today, is fabricated. They changed it al yamin ve'al semol. They found the original Halachot Gedolot, the older version, and if you compare the older version to the unedited version, there's many differences. So if you're going to quote Halachot Gedolot, let me just